Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again to our vanilla Minecraft world. And how were your holidays? Hopefully you had a good time. Hopefully you got everything you wanted and just kind of relaxed a bit. But today there is no more relaxing. We have to get back to work. So, as you may recall last episode, at the very beginning of the episode, I said that there was something specific I wanted to do here on the surface of the island, and then I got distracted by Christmas shenanigans. Well, today I want to take care of that project, the one that's going to be built here on the surface. Well, sort of. It's not technically on the surface, and you'll understand what I mean shortly. So, this side of the island is a place that you should be reasonably familiar with by now. We've spent quite a bit of time over here, adding in beaches and these ponds, and just kind of dressing up the area in general. And it's slowly starting to come together. It's slowly starting to look okay, at least I think so. But there are a few things still missing. So this area over here needs to be redone. Obviously, this hill up here that kind of connects everything together needs to be redone. But more importantly, there's one specific thing in this area that is kind of an eyesore and throws everything else off. Other than these chests that I forgot to clean up after our coral reef started. And I'm referring to this island right out here. So this little bit of vanilla terrain off the coast of my island has always been kind of an eyesore. It's just out there. It doesn't have anything interesting about it. It's just a little blob of dirt out in the ocean. And it's kind of throwing things off. As we slowly make our island look better, having this ugly little blob of dirt out there is kind of, not good. It's just throwing everything off. It's killing my mojo. So I want to take care of that today. Now, there's a few different ways we could fix that. Obviously, I could just remove the island entirely, and that would be fine, just having ocean around us. But that's also kind of lazy, and it kills an opportunity to do something interesting, which, well, that's not how I roll. So I thought about it for a while, and obviously there's plenty of different things we could do. I could just try and make the island look better and be more themed like my own, with trees and stuff. But I think I have a much cooler idea for it, and that is to put a volcano on it. Now that sounds like a good idea. Now, there's a few different things we need to keep in mind with this. First, it does need to be relatively small as far as volcanoes go. There are relatively small volcanoes in the real world, but even small volcanoes would take up a huge chunk of our skyline to build at like an actual scale. So it's not going to be even remotely realistic. It's going to be maybe like a fifth the size of a really small volcano. But it should still look okay. It should still convey the idea of a volcano. From there, we have two other choices that we can make. And that is the choice between making an active volcano or a dormant volcano. Now, an active volcano sounds really, really cool. It's because we could work with eruptions and we could make like effects coming out of it and stuff. That would be really, really awesome, and I would actually love to do a project like that, but I don't think that it's going to work here, because if we had an active volcano that close to our island, I would feel like I would need to make effects of that visible on the island, which means we would need ashes and like molten rock boulders and stuff from the volcano on our islands, and that would modify a lot of the stuff we've already done, as well as modify some plans that I have in the future. So the active volcano route, probably not what we're going to do. So we're probably going to go the dormant volcano route instead, and just kind of have something that's clearly volcano-shaped, but is a little more overgrown. Maybe we can have signs of it erupting in the past, but it's not going to be spewing lava or anything like that, at least right now. So I think that sounds like a cool plan, and I'm going to go and get right to that. So the first step is going to be to get the shape of the volcano itself in there, maybe shape the island around it a little bit, and maybe put in some kind of basic vegetation, maybe some small trees and stuff, things that aren't quite to the scale that we have on our main island, maybe because this island is newer or because the volcano erupted and got rid of everything, who knows. But that sounds like a cool plan to me. So I'm going to go and get to that, and I'll be back with you guys once we have our volcano up and we're ready to move on. So here is our volcano so far, and I think that looks pretty good, at least for what it is, as kind of a little mini volcano. I think it conveys the idea relatively well, though there are a few things I want to do to it yet to try and help kind of sell that volcano idea a little bit better. But I think the general shape itself is in place. I do still need to tweak it quite a bit. There's a lot of little spots with the stonework along the volcano that just, they don't feel quite right. Unfortunately, that takes a really, really long time to fix. Like, I've already spent at least an hour or two just going around and trying to clean things up a bit, and it takes a long time. So I'm going to have to hold off on that. I'll probably do that on my own time off camera at some point, hopefully in between episodes. But for right now, I think the general shape of our volcano is decent. The island around it is a little bit boring. Let's go ahead and get kind of an aerial view of that. It's bland. It's just a little bit of grass around the outside with some vegetation and stuff growing, but I think it's okay. I did want to cram more into it. I wanted like beach areas and stuff initially, but we just don't have the space for it, unfortunately. Like, if I tried to cram an entire beach side around to it, all of this grassy stuff would basically have to not exist. Otherwise, it would be very condensed and right along the volcano, and yeah, it just wasn't ideal. And I definitely wanted to have a lot of vegetation and stuff going on around it to kind of convey that it hasn't been erupting recently. Though, I did also add in this little stripe thing going on. Let's see, do I have a boat? Yes. I added this little stripe of gray concrete powder, and I think it's meant to represent the old lava flow that came out of the volcano and then kind of dried up and is just there. I mean, I know it wouldn't have all stayed quite like that, but I think that it conveys that idea, at least reasonably well, but maybe I'm just biased. You guys will have to let me know if that actually looks like that or if it's just a weird stripe to you when you're not kind of aware what it's supposed to look like. So, that's that. But like I said before, we do have a few more things I want to do with this to help sell the idea of a volcano just a little bit better. So one of those things, if we go ahead and fly up here, is to put lava inside of it. So currently, if we were to ever fly over this, and obviously that would be the only situation where we would actually see in here is if we're flying above, but if we fly over it right now, we get this kind of ugly view, and that's not really what we want. Obviously, we want to look down into our volcano and see some lava. So I think that just a little ways down, maybe 10 or so blocks from the top, we can seal things off and then have a layer of probably a little bit of lava and a lot of magma blocks, just to make it feel like it's a little bit dried up, it's not super volatile. I think that would look pretty decent. So I want to try and do that. I think that'll help make things look better, at least from the rare occasion when we're flying above. And I also would like to try and add a plume of smoke coming out the top. Now, I didn't really intend to do this originally, but from the beach side, it doesn't quite have that volcano feel to it, right? It's got the shape, but you could easily mistake that for just being like a mountainous, hillish thing, right? It doesn't necessarily feel like a volcano. But if we had some smoke coming out of it, bam, definitely a volcano. So I want to do that. Obviously nothing too crazy. We don't want to have like a giant pillar of black smoke or anything. But maybe just a little bit of white smoke, like how volcanoes kind of steam sometimes. I think that would really kind of sell the effect and feel pretty cool. So definitely want to try and do those two things, and maybe a few other little tweaks around it as well. I was kind of experimenting with the idea of having some lime concrete on the side of it. So, like, we have these little dirt patches, right? And if you ever look at volcano images of volcanoes that haven't been actively erupting or anything like that, they frequently have a lot of greenery going up the sides of them, like as far as possible. Obviously depending on climate and how steep it is and stuff like that. But a lot of the time, they have like lots of grass and shrubbery and stuff growing up the sides because volcanic ash is really fertile when it comes to soil. So I wanted to convey that, but I think it may actually look better if we use lime concrete powder. That way, it kind of encompasses the entire side in green. Sort of like if you've ever turned on the better grass option in Optifine, where it makes all the hills like solid green. That kind of vibe. That might look kind of cool. So I want to experiment with that as well. Maybe swap out one of these little dirt patches with lime concrete powder and see what it looks like. But yeah, So I'm going to go ahead and try all those things and see what our volcano looks like in the end, and then we'll move on and head inside, which I don't think we're going to do a whole lot with today, but I am slowly getting an idea of what I want to do with this place, which wasn't really intended. I didn't really think about making anything too crazy with it, but I think that we're definitely going to try and turn this into something a little more interesting and kind of tie it in with the backstory of our island a bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and get to all of that, and I'll be back with you guys in just a minute. So here's what the inside of our volcano is looking like now, and obviously after I put all the lava and magma blocks in, I decided that that was just a little bit too bright yet, and I came back in with some concrete powder, some black concrete powder specifically, to add in and kind of mix things up a bit, because I'm not sure why I thought my original plan was going to work, but it's definitely still felt very, very molten and just a little bit too bright and a little bit too intense for what I was after. So I think that this is a good medium, a kind of a good in-between. I might come in and mix maybe like solid black concrete into this mixture a little bit, just to break it up a little more. But I don't know, this kind of rough texture works relatively well for this, so we'll see. For now though, I think that looks pretty good. Of course, after that, we went in and added in our smoke plume thing, which it turned out okay. It definitely is a bit different from my original intention, though, so I may still be changing it a bit. Like, my original plan was to make this a little bit more thin and wispy than it kind of ended up being, and I don't really know that that would work anyway, but I may still go in and try and do that. I may also change what's going on at the top here, because it just kind of ends, right? There's just this, like, one little extra puff going on, and that's a little strange. So I could either try and make like a big swoosh of smoke going off, like the wind is carrying it away, or I could just try and add a few more little bits to make it look like it's dissipating a bit better. But right now it feels a little weird to me. So I'm definitely going to be changing that somehow or other, but for right now I think it's okay. It at least kind of feels like smoke, I think. Maybe. Maybe I'm just biased. I don't know. You guys will have to let me know what we should do with the smoke, but I like the idea at least. Definitely going to have to tweak it a bit, though. And I did also add in the concrete powder, like I mentioned as well, just on this little section here. And it's kind of a bummer because it actually works really well for what I wanted it to kind of give that mossy, overgrown feeling. And it works, it does. But I think in this exact scenario, it doesn't quite work well enough. The main issue is that because we can't really plant anything on it, from a little bit of a distance, we have all of these really prominent lines going across, and there's not a whole lot we can do to get rid of those, unfortunately, in this exact case. So I don't think that I'm going to be able to keep that. I think that it kind of, as much as I like the concept, I don't think that it works well enough in this area. So I'm probably going to switch that back to grass, and maybe we'll do that on a bigger like mountain or volcano or something in the future, because I do think it works well, just not quite on this scale. So for now, other than the small things that still need to change, like obviously the volcano itself still has a little bit of tweaking to do, some staircasey blocks to remove and some straight lines to figure out. So that's going to get tweaked up, and the smoke obviously is going to get changed a little bit, as I said. But other than that, I think the exterior of our volcano is pretty well done, at least for now. So that brings us to the interior of the volcano. Now, when I first started this project, I really didn't intend to have anything inside. Well, nothing special anyway. I really just wanted something to look at from our beach area. But we have all of this space to work with in here. and we have our ancient civilization theme on our main island, and it would be really a shame to have a volcano over here and not take advantage of that somehow with those two things. So I think that we're going to try eventually, and we're not going to be able to do this today because I need a lot of time to design this, but I want to try and add some kind of volcano god shrine in here because we do need to start working on the deity stuff on the island. There's a few that I want to do. I want to do a moon deity and an ocean deity, I believe. And I think a volcano one would be a cool addition to that. But obviously, as I said, I do need to spend a lot of time trying to figure out how I want that to look because I don't want to just throw something together. So we're not going to quite get to that today, but I do at least want to clean up the inside of the volcano and maybe get a little bit of a prep area right here, like a landing area for boats and stuff where the people could have rowed over, for example. I think I want to try and get that planned out and kind of cleaned up and everything. That way, when we do come over here to work on a proper volcano god shrine or something along those lines, that we can just get right to it and we don't need to worry about all of the tedious stuff. So I'm going to go take care of all of that, and I'll be right back with you guys. So I've finished cleaning up the inside of our volcano, at least for the time being. Do keep in mind that this does not look anything like it's going to in the end, but I wanted to get things at least cleaned up a little bit so we would have a clean slate to work with when we return to the project. So first things first, we have this little kind of room that we land in. I definitely want to do something more interesting with this. Maybe like a little boat dock or something along those lines, just to show that people actually rowed over here and it was a frequent occurrence. It was something important to them as a civilization to come over here. So I would really like to convey that somehow in this little intro area. And then we have two directions to go. We can either go left, which will take us into this big room here. Hello, creeper. Boop. And we're definitely not going to just have this giant open room. Like, I would like the volcano god shrine that I'd like to make to be relatively large, but I don't want this, like, entire area to be shown. Because right now, you walk in here and you go, oh, the entire volcano is hollow, which isn't what I want to convey. So this route will actually probably lead through a cave of some kind. It may even go deeper underground. Not entirely sure, but wherever this ends up leading, it's not just going to show you the entire inside of the volcano. We may even try and fill this space with multiple kind of different rooms or something like that, just to make it feel a little more winding and a little more large on the inside. But we definitely don't want to just show this huge area. So this is going to be changing for sure. And this side over here, I'm not entirely sure about. I added in this little staircase that just kind of winds up the kind of entire edge of the volcano all the way up to the lava above. And I really like the idea that they could come up here and like do ritual-y stuff above the lava. But unfortunately, our volcano is so small that we can't really convey that anyway. So I don't know. It would be cool if we had space to add like a ritual table or something along those lines, but we really don't. And I even had to destroy a good chunk of our lava already just to get up here. So I don't know. I may decide to retract this section at least, just because we can't really add anything to it, at least as far as I can think of. But the path is still debatable. It kind of depends what we do with the shrine area, because if we do decide to have a bunch of little rooms, this little build here means that we can just kind of pop out of the wall wherever we want and build part of the shrine, or like a room or a chamber or whatever we want. And that means that we could use the full height of the volcano for a series of rooms, which would be kind of cool. I'm not sure if that's how we'll do it, but that's a thought at least. So we'll see how things turn out. I obviously have a lot of designing to do before I return to this, but for right now, I think that is going to do it for our volcano project. See you, Spidey. So that was kind of interesting. It took kind of a different turn than I was expecting it to. But I think that we solved our initial goal of giving this area something more interesting to look at over here, rather than that vanilla terrain island. And I think it looks okay. Again, I will be tweaking the shape a little bit and fixing up the smoke somehow or other. I'll have to experiment with that a little bit, probably in a creative world, before I try and finalize it. But for right now, I think that'll do. And that's also going to do it for today's episode. So hopefully you guys enjoyed our little volcano project. as always, if you have any suggestions at all for the volcano itself, whether that's for the smoke or something we could add to it, or of course for the volcano god temple shrine thing that we want to do, be sure to tell me, because I've gotten tons and tons of inspiration from you guys for builds and stuff like that. So, as always, be sure to let me know if you have anything like that. So, with that, I'm going to call it good here. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.